about House Bill 585. Let's leave it at this. 585 is a bad bill. Representative Michael Haney of the 40th District, he's the Huber Heights representative. I want you guys to call his office. I want you to call the governor's office. I want you to call your senator's office. State Senator Peggy Lerner. Here's who else you can call. If you live in Miami County, you can call State Representative Stephen Huffman, District 80. He is your state representative. State Senator Bill Beagle in District 5 for Miami County. You can call his office. I'm going to give you all the numbers here. Representative Michael Haney, phone number is area code 614-644-8051. Representative Huffman, area code 614-466-8114. Peggy Lerner, phone number 614-466-4538. Representative Bill Beagle, 614-466-6247. Say no to House Bill 585. Call your representatives. Let them know this bill is junk and we don't want it. Or if you like it, then don't. All right. Huber Heights. Let's talk about Huber Heights. We talked about who represents you in the state. Now, let's talk about who represents you at home. In not so many words. I don't have a whole lot of negative things. I think last podcast we drilled down the negative. So I will start with a mild negative, and then we'll go into some positive things and be done with it. And then we'll talk about Trump tweets. Anyway, April 3rd, they talked about issuing insurance and having to do a renewal because they canceled a council meeting. I want you to listen to this.
Next up, item 3C, we have an increase not to exceed amount for our city liability insurance. See in the packet, this was submitted by Mr. Fulkowski. So, if you want to start that, or if Ms. Nyes would like to go ahead and take that.
I'll go ahead and take it. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Legislation before you, as you mentioned, it's an increase not to exceed. We have liability insurance, which is property and casualty. And we have a renewal date. The renewal date is March 26th. Due to not having a council meeting that month and then having it the next meeting, it didn't work that way. So we asked for an extension, and they were glad to give that to us. But, of course, with that comes a cost.
Okay, I'm going to stop it for a second. With that comes a cost. A cost to who? The city? Or the city taxpayers?
And our premium. So this is for that. The cost for the premium, I think, is $20,800. So I put $25,000 for that increase in premium. So that is what this legislation is increasing. So that increases that total to $279,000. So that's for that policy year we're currently in. And then I've also included in here, we have a client service agreement with Marsh & McLennan. They're our broker. They do all of our brokering for the liability insurance. And we use their clientele, we use their claims person, we use, they have an attorney we use. So this amount goes to that, and we'd like to go ahead and renew that now. So that's where the $22,000 comes in.
Is it a premium increase specifically, or are we just doing, since we're extending into another policy year, is that what this is?
For the policy year.
Okay.
So renewal now, our renewal date is May 11th. Is what we're putting it at. So I should have quotes and renewal for you hopefully next meeting.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments for Ms. Nyes? Okay, no objections, no comments. We'll move this on to our city council meeting.
Okay, so that's the question you have to ask your council members. What happened? I'll tell you what happened. They canceled a meeting to go to D.C., and since their renewal came up and it wasn't, planned ahead, they have to pay extra for that extension. But, Matt, someone at least questioned that and asked questions at the April 9th meeting, right? The official city council meeting.
Item 12, our new business, under administration. Mr. Rogers, would you read item 12A, please?
Item 12A, a resolution authorizing increasing the not-to-exceed amount for the cost of general liability, property, boiler and machinery, inland marine, automobile, crime, law enforcement liability, public officials liability, and other necessary insurance coverage for the City of Huber Heights at the first reading.
And I will call on Mr. Volkowski for comments on this item as well.
Thank you. This request for the increase in the not to exceed is twofold. One is due to an extension. The quotes came in after the meeting deadlines from our previous meeting. We did have a canceled meeting in that time period as well. And then also $22,000 for the renewal of the client services agreement.
Thank you. And do I have a motion for this item? Mr. Campbell?
So moved.
And do I see a second? Mr. Otto?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on item 12A? Okay, seeing none, Mr. Rogers, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Otto? Yes. Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Morgan?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Verge?
Yes.
Okay, that item passes 7-0.
No discussion. Just moving on. Moving on for the vote. Do I have a motion? Yes, you do. Do I have a second? You sure do. From the guy who does insurance. Anyway, there's that. And it's on the work session. 4/17.
Thank you. Any questions, any discussion for Katie on the insurance renewal? Okay. We will move that to Monday evening.
And then following the work session, you had the city council meeting where they voted on this. And here is the 2-minute clip from that.
D, a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement to provide insurance coverage for general liability, property, boiler and machinery, inland marine, automobile, crime, law enforcement liability, public officials liability, and other necessary insurance coverage for the City of Huber Heights, Ohio, waiving the competitive bidding requirements, and to cover the cost of services ordered by the city at the first reading.
Mr. Schomer, comments, please.
Yes, thank you. I believe Mrs. Knisley discussed in the work session, this is our annual renewal of the liability insurance, also with our brokerage that provides additional services as well, and that's Marshall McClellan Agency. One thing of note is that $25,000 of the amount will be covered in a requested supplemental. And we indicated, as we did last year, as additional claims came in, and we hope not to have them, coming back and rebudgeting for the deductibles. This year, I believe it was discussed the potential of having that $25,000 amount to be flexible within adding to that as deductibles and or claims occur through the year. Again, hope we don't, but the flexibility was there. Other than that, this is pretty much a standard resolution, standard policy that we've had for several years. It was shopped and bid by Marshall McClellan, and this was in recommendation of our broker and review by HR, the best option.
Thank you, sir. And at the work session, it was recommended that we adopt this item this evening. Do I have a motion for adoption? Mr. Lyons?
Move to adopt.
I have a motion to adopt. Do I have a second? Mr. Hill?
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this item this evening? Seeing none, Mr. Rogers, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Otto? Yes. Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Morgan?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Verge?
Yes.
Item passes 7-0.
Okay, there it is. The insurance discussion. So we just broke it all down. Somebody may say that's not a big deal, Matt. Why did you even put that on the podcast? That's fine. But it's the little things that I believe you have to pay attention to know how things are going to happen with the big things that come down the line. So there's that. Let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about upcoming events and upcoming things that are happening throughout the city and what has occurred since then. May 8th, the City Council work session. There's actually a very large agenda. It's a lot bigger than what it has been. I'll just run through some of the things. I think an important part of every agenda is the city manager report. I think the Huber Heights city manager does a great job in providing the citizens a read ahead of what the city staff and what the city manager team has been doing in the city and the upcoming issues sometimes, or if there was an issue resolved, or if there's an ongoing issue, to let everyone know that they're on top of it. I think he does an excellent job with that. And it's important to listen to that and know what is coming down the road. So check that out. Also, it says BWC renewal. That's on the agenda there. And it's just things that have to be done. It's for like workers' compensation, things like that. New fire code standards have been apparently put out by Ohio, so they're going to be talking about that and try to get that adopted into the city. Something that I've seen go around on social media, on the different social media pages, playground equipment. So they're going to talk about Miami Valley or Miami Villa playground over there off of Rip Rap Road. So you might want to check that out. There is no link to it, so you'll have to tune in to the discussion or stop up at City Hall. That's my recommendation, is that you actually sit there and watch them. That way they know that you're there and you're interested. Supplemental appropriations. Anytime you see that on an agenda, pay attention. Supplemental appropriations. That's basically what that is. When someone says supplemental, it's in addition to what is already present. So there may be a budgeted item, so you need a supplement or a supplemental appropriation, more money to a certain item. So anytime you see that item on an agenda, pay attention and know where that extra money or additional money is going to. This May 8th work session, they're going to talk about a $21,000 pavement preservation and repair program. So where that's going, you'll have to check that out. Another important agenda item is the budgets for the city boards and commissions. Now, I hope I've made it clear that just giving a board or a commission a certain amount of money to spend, that's okay. But it still has to be okayed through city council. Now, what are they going to do? Are they going to give them, say, $5,000 and already vote and say, you guys can spend $5,000 and then allow that board or commission to spend that money? That's one way of doing it. Or are they going to say, you guys have $25,000 or $50,000, but then it has to come back to us for another approval? To me, that would make no sense whatsoever. If you want to truly make these boards and commissions feel like they have some sort of power, give them the power to actually make decisions, to build parks, especially for the Parks and Recreation Committee. Give them the power to actually create plans, to design these parks, to implement these parks. Give them the power to do that. And then you can vote on it. Let them decide where these parks are going to go. They have a lot of information from that study that was done. They know what the people of Huber Heights want. The dog park committee, there was a separate committee built. What does that say to the Parks and Rec Board? To me, look, the mayor has a right to create different committees. What would be interesting to see is and what was talked about on previous podcasts, is a financial director of the entire city. Why isn't there a committee that is formed by the mayor for an oversight of everything, an oversight committee? If there's certain questions that citizens have, that gets put on an agenda. If enough of the committee members say, yes, we would like to see this, we would like to discuss this, somebody could complain about grass and I don't know. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. So when that dog park committee was created, and I get it, there's people that have a passion for it, and those people that are on the dog park committee have a passion for it, and I commend that. But what is that saying